Our project focuses on water. Our research question is, how can a person's living space be integrated alongside and within nature and have a mutual and positive relationship between them? We believe that man must return to living as part of biodiversity and stop seeing it as separate. Nature works in flexible systems, constantly changing and evolving. All the forms of nature have architecture, an arrangement of material in space and over time that determines their shape, size, behavior and duration, and how they come into being. Humanity must learn from nature and act in the appropriate way. Our landscape unit is a long narrow valley, which is naturally walled by the Golan Heights from the east, and by the Naphtali mountain range from the west, while we are located in the northern part of the valley just beside the city of Kiryat Shmona. In the early days of the Hula Valley, the entire area was an enormous lake, that covered the entire valley. Gradually the lake got miniaturized with time, but then got an extra push with the Israeli settlers, and their attempts to dry the marshlands of young Israel back in the 1950s, a certain section of land, that could bring back the ecological system, that once occupied that area, back to life. The landscape unit, that would have been the bridge in the gap between local organism, and marine organism. That very same water-based ecological system, generates opportunity to increase agriculture, and help revive the marine economy. The location of the site allows the accumulation of rainwater from the dry valleys, and the routing of some of the sources of the Jordan, for the benefit of flooding the site again. Therefore, we have chosen 3 water-based organisms that could coexist side by side in the same space cell, and that would also fit in naturally in this ecological environment that we've brought back to life, and of course all of this in the favor of the future Superblock. Those different crops can provide nourishment all year long with different harvest times. The principles of planning grows from below, through the basic needs of those organisms and their ability to properly nourish a number of human beings. In the graph, you can see the caloric ratio, in front of the vegetation cycles, and the harvest of the 3 ornaments, which will be the source of energy for man. We calculated the calories for each 100 square foot growth cycle. The project began with the decision to return the swamp to the site. We lowered the ground by 3 meters and created a new topography. We divided the topography into clusters in the shape of a circle whose radius is 150 meters and consists of several heights of topography. From the research of the project, we refined 5 guiding principles that led us to make the design and practical decisions. The first guiding principle is aquaculture, which is the main component of the project. Following the research we analyzed on fishing methods, we created a new system that works together with the block. The second principle is water recycling, with the help of absorption, filtration, and emission systems. Systems, however, are designed to save water consumption, while returning water to nature, in a way that strives to maintain ecological balance. At the site there are pumps, and containers at the base of the unit, which are embedded within the constructive array of the structure. The third principle is blurring the interface between the structure and the environment, which is expressed at the bottom of the block in the form of habitats to marine organisms. In the fourth principle, we chose to build units which can be disassembled and assembled for the purpose of quick, easy mobility while creating flexibility for the ever-changing human needs and reuse of the material. In each block there is a crane, which makes up the units, and operates the aquaculture. The fifth principle is autonomous. Each block knows how to provide for itself the basic needs, which are food, accommodation, employment, leisure, culture and housing. The first experiment we conducted on the site is in the percentage of water flooding of the entire area. The purpose of this experiment is to examine the amount of people that the site can economize on the water base. We then performed experiments in dividing the site into clusters. Each cluster shows a different division of the site that takes into account the topographic component. The clusters are formed as centers of equal weight in relation to each other. We then tried to produce clusters in different radii that would dictate the maximum walking distance in a particular neighborhood. Another experiment was in expanding the block with an adjustment to the angle of the sun. The purpose of the experiment was to impose maximum sunlight on agriculture and on the other hand minimum sun on the inhabitants. We finally came up with 5 different combinations in the development of a single block. The combination D consists of A and B. Combination E consists of B and C. The connection between the blocks is made in a linkage and not in accordance with the grid, in order to allow more exposure of the land and agriculture to the sun. The design outcomes start with a master plan. The master plan is planned for expansion. The first settlement begins on the banks of the swamp and grows inwards. It is only planned to reach stage 3, because it is optimal for the angle of the sun. Phase 4 is an extreme phase that simulates full occupancy. The movement between the blocks is carried out around the perimeter of the buildings, and allows continuous and flowing movement. The shapes of the buildings, inspired by the world of aquatic plants and the typology of a fishing village. The islands created at the site allow nature to grow wild, and man to create a connecting factor, back to nature. Along with the basic programs that make up the block, there are general programs, which serve the entire site, such as a hospital, market, and theater. The site has different programs. From the south we chose to place the agricultural units so that they get the maximum amount of sun. Adjacent to it is the barn, an open space, and a cafe. The unit is a repeating detail, consisting of a frame, constructive of metal, and its swigs, of interchangeable materials and in accordance with the desired program. In the inner front, there is a passage, which allows movement between the various units. The ownership units can transport from the sides, and from top to bottom, into a growing array. The unit can be enlarged and reduced according to the changing family cell.